Hey there guys, welcome back to another awesome video, and today's TV show review is going to be of Loki, Season 1. Since Season 2 is happening this year, let's recap, rewatch, and talk about Season 1. So before we get into Season 1, just in case, I feel like a majority of you have already seen it, but just in case, there's going to be a spoiler warning. We are going to get into some spoilers. So Season 1 basically follows, let's just say for the time being, for a quick moment, a version or a variant of Loki. And he is essentially a time anomaly or a multiversal anomaly, and this organization known as the TVA takes this Loki, says that, hey, we're gonna either kill you or you can help us out find another version of you within the multiverse. So this show, I want to say a majority of these episodes, these 6 episodes, are directed by Kate Herron, I want to say her name was. All I know is that, like, the reason why I say a majority is because a lot of the Marvel shows, including Loki, kind of go for that. There's a different director for a different episode, kind of like The Mandalorian a little bit. Sometimes it's the same person, sometimes it's a different person. But the majority of the times I saw the name Kate Herron, I want to say her name is, and the producer, well, both the producer and the writers of this were Michael Waldron, who's kind of like, he's kind of overseeing a little bit of the MCU, and Tom Hiddleston. So nothing can go wrong here, since Tom Hiddleston is like at the forefront, starring and help producing his own show. Right off the bat, I want to get this out of the way and say that I wanted to rewatch this before watching Season 2, because I remember I watched this back when this aired, episode to episode each time, back in 2021, and I really found myself loving the show, really hyped, really excited about it. I decided to revisit to see if it still had that energy and still had that greatness that it had the first time around. And a majority of it actually does, which is really good. I'm actually happy that Loki is still, I consider Loki to still be a very excellent TV show, and not just because of its season finale or other things. But right out the gate, right off the bat, I will say, speaking of that, this show has really great moments and really great scenes that are very highlight material. Or if you were to do like a top 10 best moments of the show, these would be the moments that like would be, for me, the best moments of the show. With the moment that Loki watches himself die, because this is basically this is the Loki that we see escape in Avengers Endgame during the time heist. So he's technically considered a variant of himself. Or not really a variant of himself, but I mean, we all know what happens in Infinity War. Like, Loki dies, technically speaking. And Endgame kind of, not retcons it, but creates a different timeline where a version of Loki survives to go trying to escape, but yet he gets caught by the TVA. That moment, him watching himself die, is such a great moment. Him being D.B. Cooper is one of the best moments. The train scene in episode 3 with Loki and Sylvie, I can do a whole video about that scene and why I think that's just so, like, one of my favorite moments. Everything with the Lokis, like all the Loki variants, and Eliath, and of course He Who Remains, which we'll get into later on. And of course, another great thing about the show is Tom Hiddleston. Honestly, no matter what Tom Hiddleston does with Loki, he can do anything with Loki, and I feel like it would still make sense. It would fit his character, it would fit his arc, it would just fit the performance perfectly, because he just plays this character to perfection. Even the idea of giving Loki this kind of redemption arc and kind of making him a hero a little even makes sense. Like, making a version of Loki have an opportunity to redeem himself does make sense, and I like that even Tom Hiddleston kind of plays that part. And this Loki from 2012 is so used to that ideal of, he wants Asgard, he wants like the rule the world and all that stuff, to be king, that ideal, and then changes to then be the hero, kind of. And I like that it's a version of Loki. It's not like the definitive version that retcons and changes everything. It's kind of, he's technically a variant of himself. Even something like that, I think is done to perfection, and I like that. Loki does get a redemption here. I like that. And even kind of, it was hinted a little bit in Infinity War and in Ragnarok. It does feel a little bit fitting, and I feel like this would have been the only way to have brought back Loki. Of course, I'm gonna like Tom Hiddleston. I'm gonna like his Loki. I like his interactions with him and Sylvie. I like the actress who does play Sylvie. She actually does a pretty good job. Like, she doesn't try to... she doesn't try so much to basically replicate Tom Hiddleston's Loki, but a female version, but kind of creates her own, which I like that. I give props to it. I give her respect that she kind of does her own Loki a little bit in a sense, but yet there are a bit of similarities with Loki and Sylvie. I like how he interacts with Mobius, played by Owen Wilson. I think Mobius is really good. I think he's really good. He's a very solid character, very relatable character. He is obviously our kind of like our human relatability in this show. Like I mentioned earlier, I love all those Lokis that we saw in that void realm, dimension, whatever it was called. I don't remember at the top of my head, but that realm with classic Loki, with Kid Loki, and President Loki, and that other boastful Loki, which kind of, I feel like, was very a subtle version. Like, this was kind of a subtle nod, or I don't know if this was subtle or not, but it seemed like, did Loki, either that version of Loki have his own hammer, or he just was a version of Loki that actually was able to wield Mjolnir, which I'm kind of surprised by. And we have a crocodile Loki. This just all sounds awesome. It all sounds bizarre and bonkers, but it was all great fun. And quite honestly, I wouldn't mind if we saw like a mini Disney Plus series with these Lokis, like a prequel Loki series with how each Loki reached its Nexus event, and how they ended up in that void, and how they ended up where they are. Like, they explain some things, but for whatever reason, I kind of would love to see a show with these actors and with these characters. I mean, if we can get a mini Disney Plus series with Captain America traveling back to retrieve or return each Infinity Stone after Endgame, I wouldn't mind a show with these Lokis. I think it'd be actually kind of cool. Honestly, looking back on this show, I'm glad I had a really great time with it. The only thing that I would take away from this show is its villain. Not He Who Remains. He Who Remains was excellent. He was wild, he was unexpected, yet he was sinister, he was calculated, yet he was unpredictable, and he had such charm and charisma, yet a presence to him that was powerful, and I think that was because of Jonathan Majors' performance. And of course, this being a version or variant of Kang helps in a slight way, because, I mean, it's Kang the Conqueror. It's so awesome that he's playing a version of him, and he's going to be playing multiple versions of him. Hell, he does play the main Prime Universe Kang, which I still need to see Quantumania, but still, like, that's awesome, and he's going to do, let's say, some other stuff with Kang. But still, him starting off in this show, in the MCU, is just so awesome. So not He Who Remains. He Who Remains, like, although is the one that pulls the strings, runs the TVA, because we later find out the TVA was kind of like hokey in a way, an illusion in a sense, to create and keep order intact. Kind of, you could look at that as like maybe an allegory for the system, or like organizations or governments or something like that, if you want to. But like that ideal of keeping things in order, and maybe certain things maybe need to be in order, maybe certain things don't need to be in order. So I like that. I love what they gave with Jonathan Majors. But the thing is, he's not the main villain. We see him later on, he's our big like build-up, but he's not our main villain technically. And I want to say it's Renslayer. Ravonna Renslayer. And to be quite honest, if this actress wasn't Ravonna Renslayer and had no connections to Kang the Conqueror in the comics, I would think she's very forgettable, to be honest. Because, like, I get the point. I get what her tactic is. I get her method is. I just don't feel it or see it. She does a fine job. The problem is her character is written to just be by the numbers, by the books, and not that much just interesting, other than that she could have a connection to Kang. That's it. If there was no connection to Kang, I'd find her very forgettable. Like, if she wasn't Ravonna, I'd kind of forget who this person was. Maybe if she kind of strayed away from the TVA, kind of got a bit curious about who she actually was, because the TVA and the people that work there do find out that they are variants of themselves and they were just stripped away from their lives. Maybe they had lives, maybe they had who knows what in their lives, careers, families, friends, relationships, whatever, and they don't know of that. They don't have any memory of that because they're just kind of programmed to just be in the TVA. So if maybe Ravonna had an intrigue about where she came from, kind of like what Mobius had, because Mobius at least had like a bit of humor to him, he had a bit of charisma, he had like a nice, just relatable, likable guy energy to him. Not only did it help because it's Owen Wilson, but it's also the fact that this guy eventually started to get a little curious. He started to maybe think, hey, Loki might have a point, because Loki points out the obvious of, you guys are variants, you guys are just you guys are just pawns being pulled by a puppet master and all this sort of stuff, and you don't know where you come from. And then he starts to kind of think, do I have a family? Do I have a life outside the TVA? If Ravonna had something like that going for her, then you can definitely like grasp towards her, but there's nothing really that much to grasp towards with her. And another thing that might be debatable, but I don't think it's debatable on, you might like this, or if you might not like this, for any of you that have seen the show, you guys might not be fans of Sylvie, because apparently there is a bit of like a divisive fan base with Sylvie, because I mean, she kills He Who Remains. It makes sense to hate her, but in all honesty, if she didn't kill He Who Remains, we wouldn't get Kang the Conqueror, and I think it all helps build up that season finale, which still such like a crazy season finale to end, where now the TVA is a little like almost like reset and the multiverse is broken out, which by the way, during that like big like bang moment that He Who Remains now has that scene that we all seen where he's kind of like, now he doesn't know what to do, because He Who Remains is meant to be he who remains at the end of time and space. He knows all, he's seen all. This is a version of Kang that has known all and seen all and been there, done that sort of type of guy. So there's a crack that happens in the multiverse, and now that kind of throws off what can happen next, because he has this whole plan and this bang happens. And I think the reason why I point out that we've seen this all before is because I feel like this scene has been done a lot of times on YouTube, where people insert this scene, perhaps of maybe it was Wanda that created that Nexus event that broke the multiverse. Maybe it was during Spider-Man and Doctor Strange's spell during No Way Home that broke the multiverse. Maybe it was something else that broke the multiverse. I think it could be a mixture of multiple things, but I think it's between either Wanda becoming the Scarlet Witch is what broke the multiverse, or Doctor Strange's spell and Spider-Man No Way Home broke the multiverse. The multiverse breaks, it starts to crack, it creates all sorts of rifts in time and space, creating like these collisions, and maybe perhaps future incursions could happen, like Reed Richards mentions. And now we see Kang, like, at the forefront of the TVA. And Loki is seen and knows what Kang is capable of, and that's what's really scary. And I still love the idea that Loki is the one that has given us our big bads. Like, he worked for Thanos. He was basically, technically helping Thanos during the Battle of New York and helped take over the world. And he kind of, in a way, introduced us to Thanos, and now he's introduced us to Kang the Conqueror. And I just love that so much, and I think it all fits, but I could see kind of where people would hate Sylvie for stabbing He Remains. Honestly, other than that, I really love the show. I still like the show as much as I did. Maybe like a small nitpick or two, that's mainly it, but I think I'm going to give Loki Season 1, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. So, Loki Season 1, have you guys seen it? What did you think of it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please smash the like button. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I do awesome videos every day, every week. Make sure you ring that bell to do new videos every day, if not every week. Share the video with family and friends, all the good stuff and more. Leave any suggestions in the comments. You name it, I'll look into it as best as possible. We've still got at least another week of March Marvel Madness. I'm gonna get out. I have another video to get out for you guys, so hopefully I can get that out before the end of March and the end of March Marvel Madness. If not, it will probably lean into the beginning of April. We'll see. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.